I probably am not the most mentally healthy person around. I definitely have used cycling, particularly as a way to deal with a lot of issues that happened to me. I got divorced, I lost my dad, I lost my brother, all around the time where I just skyrocketed as a cyclist because I was running away from a lot of things.
Welcome everybody to the highs and lows of X's and O's. I'm your host, Dr. Hillary Cauthen, or as some of my clients like to call me, Dr. C. I'm a clinical sports psychologist based in Austin, Texas, and I've been in the field for over 17 years working with individual athletes, teams, and organizations in building their mental performance and wellness programs. My passion is to assist breaking down stigmas across communities, which is highlighted in my book, Hello Trauma, Our Invisible Teammate. This is your go-to podcast where we delve into the intricate dance between mental health, performance, and success. Every week, we explore the peaks and valleys while striving for success with the insights straight from top performers and elite athletes. Join us as we uncover their stories, challenges, and mental cheat code that could be a game changer for your performance playbook. Let's get started. This week, I am so excited for this guest, partly for selfish reasons, because I just recently got into this high rock sport myself. So really excited to have our guest, Allison Outlaw, on. She is a local Austin just athlete and coach, and so much I can explain about her. But selfishly, I can't wait to dive into the conversation to learn things myself, and hope you'll get some things out of it as well. So let me introduce you to Allison. So for more than 2 decades, she has been deeply entrenched in the fitness world, constantly pushing herself to conquer fresh obstacles. The thrill of empowerment she experiences from training and competing has always fueled her passion, which she enthusiastically imparts in her clients. With certifications as a trainer, nutrition coach, CrossFit, and High Rocks coach, Allison stands out as a versatile coach. As an athlete, she's clinched numerous age group world championship titles in hybrid racing across DECA and High Rocks events. Noteworthy achievements in cycling include winning Texas Cup for ultra cycling and securing multiple victories in the state time trial championships. Allison's extensive background in endurance sports and nutrition solidifies her reputation as a top authority in the hybrid training. So I'm just so excited. I've been watching you. I've got to experience you as a judge in one of my competitions, and just now that I'm in this world, I can't wait to dive into what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's kind of weird to hear myself introduced like that a little bit, but yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us like what you're currently doing in the Austin community?
So currently I work for CrossFit Central, which has been around a really long time. It's one of the oldest CrossFit boxes in the U.S. And it started by Carrie Kepler and her brother, Jeremy Teal, who were in the CrossFit Games like in the early days. Mm-hmm. So now we're moving more towards this hybrid training style. And I was kind of the first one in the gym to start doing this. I was the first one to go do High Rocks in like 2021. And I was just kind of like, didn't know what I was doing. And everyone was like, why isn't she doing CrossFit? What's going on? So now we have a pretty big community. We've become a High Rocks affiliate, a DECA affiliate, and it's just growing, and it's awesome to see all that.
Yeah, and so for those that don't know hybrid athletes or the sport itself, help us understand like how you would describe it. Who's it for? Who gets into it?
I feel like that's a complicated question. I think when I think of hybrid athlete, there's a couple names that come to mind. And one of them is Nick Bear, who's local here. And he many would say he's like the guy that trailblazed the way for hybrid athletes. But I think it's somebody that doesn't specialize in one thing. Maybe has more of a lean towards endurance, but doesn't also lifts weights too and does all kinds of stuff. That's probably
just multi-sport, versatile, but there's definitely an element of some grit and a little edge to the competitor in this kind of domain that you're in.
Yeah, it's definitely there's so many new races that are up and coming too, that it's like it's growing so fast. It's kind of like the definition keeps changing and evolving. I don't even think we know quite what we're capable of doing as hybrid athletes. And like, so we're still kind of figuring all this out a little bit.
And you're constantly competing in new things, and I can't wait to get the current day training. But I like to start back with what we call like learning the play. So take me through like your childhood athletic experiences.
Uh, I grew up with three brothers, so it was a lot of running around with them and playing sports with them. I would get thrown with them and their friends. So I didn't quite understand that I was different, like I was a girl and I was different until I started playing sports in middle school, like on teams and stuff. So I played soccer through middle school, high school, and college. And that's kind of where I learned sports, I guess.
And were you multi-sport, or did you just specialize in soccer?
All I did was play soccer. Yeah, that's all I really knew. And I was a goalkeeper, so I didn't run that much. Yeah.
And was the passion and the plan to go to college, to play in college?
Not really. It was just kind of like the only option, honestly. Just because I wasn't so good in school. I didn't sit in the classes very well or take tests very well. So that was really my only way to get an education, honestly.
And in that time, like, how was the environment in this team you were on and the culture of sport in college?
It was very different, right? Because there wasn't a lot of guidance with nutrition and or even with like your mental health or anything. So there was a lot of like eating disorder issues happening with a lot of the girls, a lot of like just getting burnt out kind of thing. I definitely got burnt out. So it was more of just like, yeah, just go, play.
Yeah, like I've been hearing you talk about it, right? Like, because I have lots of guests on, they all have these like college experience, transition to pro, and I'm a little bit biased knowing the level of commitment that you have to your sport now, and then hearing you talk about the experience in college is like, oh yeah, I just did it. It was a thing. The passion doesn't seem the same.
I didn't. I wasn't passionate about it. It was a job, and I didn't want to like continue doing that after school. I didn't really know what I was gonna do, honestly.
Yeah. So how did you figure that out? Like, how did you transition out of college, like, and kind of find yourself in this space?
Well, I actually got married right out of college. So I went straight into getting married at a young age and kind of just living as a housewife, not kind of lost. I started going to the gym, like Gold's Gym, and doing group fitness classes. So I started doing like the spin class, and that's where I learned to ride a bike in a spin class.
And yet you have this like amazing experience on the road, competitive environment.
Yeah, it was kind of strange. Like I would get compulsive about it. I would go to spin class like 2 times a day, every day. And I'd stay after and just sit on the bike. And one day, one of the instructors was like, hey, we're going to go do this charity ride, like outside. You can borrow a bike. So I did that. I started riding bikes and slowly kind of got into bike racing from there.
And was that like a newfound love? Was it helping you just kind of adapt into this world as like wife and finding yourself?
Yeah, it was definitely a good outlet for me for a few years. But then when I started racing, it's kind of like something switched in me where I realized I was good at it. And I just kept training and racing and training and racing. It basically consumed my life.
Yeah. So we go from college soccer goalkeeper to then transition to finding yourself into the cycling world. Then it becomes this obsession and passion. What in that time period of your athletic endeavors, like what was the highest moment you remember as a competitor in cycling?
It was lining up to my first like professional race. Next to some of the women that I had looked up to that I never thought in a million years I'd be in a race with them. That was kind of crazy. And then meeting my idols like Lance Armstrong. I used to watch him, in the Tour de France. When I was in high school, I'd watch him. So meeting him and actually training with him and being involved with him and his group of friends in Austin, that was crazy. I never thought that would happen.
And then what was the next transition out of cycling into? Did you then go into the DECA High Rocks realm, or like what was your next athletic endeavor?
I just went into this CrossFit gym that I'm currently coach at. I just kind of walked in there because I wanted to do something different. I got really burnt out on just the same thing. I didn't feel like an athlete anymore because I would get winded walking up the stairs carrying groceries.
Right.
I felt like my body was kind of breaking down from the hours of training, like crashing and just being out there training about like out on the road with cars everywhere.
Sure.
After that, like after crashing a few times, I got hit by a truck, so like, and you start to become hyper vigilant of everything. And that was starting to wear on me. So I'm like, all right, let's do something else. Let's go try CrossFit and do that for a little while. And that's what I did.
And at that point, no idea, never entered it, just fresh, gonna go learn.
Yeah, I'm going to learn this. This will be fun. Like it's indoor. It's like safer. And I've always wanted to like be muscular. I've always been kind of skinny. I wanted to see like, could I lift some weights? Could I do that? All the gymnastic stuff. So I learned all that stuff. And when I went in, people thought I was nuts because I had like these tan lines from riding my bike and this big engine. Yet I didn't even know how to like squat, right? Or I couldn't do a single push up on my toes.
Right. So transition to CrossFit, but you weren't competing yet. You were just learning the list, adapting to your body.
Yeah, just learning how to do basic things. And it's like I starting over really. All that training on the bike, it didn't really translate into CrossFit much at all. Maybe just the grit and the work ethic translated, but it took a long time for me to be able to do a pull up or do a push up. Yeah, it was an interesting transition.
So when we started entering into, did you compete in CrossFit first?
I did. It was interesting because I never really was able to get the, and at this point I'm like 38, 39, approaching 40. I wasn't really able to get the strength in a lot of the lifts. So I'd go to like a pretty big competition like TFX, which is like a regional, or it's a pretty big CrossFit competition. I do really well in all the endurance things, but I would not be able to compete at all in the lifts. So around that time is when High Rocks started coming to the U.S. We had this guy, E-Rock, his name's Eric, but he came to our gym and was like, hey, there's this thing called High Rocks. Do any of y'all want to do it? And my mentor coach was like, yeah, she'll do it. She'd probably be good at that. Like she kind of sucks at lifting and gymnastics. So, but she's really good at all the other stuff. So yeah. So my gym set me there. There was like, I don't know, 7 women in the race.
Right. And then you keep pushing yourself.
After my first High Rocks, I said, I'm going to do this. Like, this is my thing now. I'm not going to do CrossFit anymore.
Yeah. You kind of own that identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at what point did you transition into the elite pro level?
I don't know. I went to North American Championship and that was the pro weights. So I had to do the pro weights. I think I got second in my age group there. And I saw that I was still a little weak compared to the other women. So I had spent some time like building up more strength and continuing to run and building up more strength and just racing a bunch, and was able to get into the physical shape I needed to be in to compete in the pro level.
And take us through the highest High Rocks moment for you.
That had to be winning the first world championship, because I didn't think I was going to win at all. Wasn't expecting it. So my mentor is Carrie Kepler. She owns the gym. She made me do this exercise where she had me like close my eyes and picture myself standing on the podium in first place and winning. And I had the hardest time. I couldn't see it. So she kept making me do it. And it was the one day where like I had to actually get on a plyometric box and stand there and pretend like I won. And I was like, it just choked me up because I realized how badly I wanted to win, and I had to recognize that. And even going in, I didn't think I could do it, but it happened. So I was bawling at the end of that race. It was just a great moment. It wasn't my fastest high rocks at all, but that was when I started to believe in myself that day.
And like hearing that you were having a coach who's like, one, the belief, and then using visualization and knowing like I can't see this, right? But then physically having you do it, right? Which I love the part of visualization where first we think through it and we're not connecting, and then she's putting you in this environment to say this is what it's going to feel like, and then you connect that emotional piece to it, and it's like so powerful.
Yeah,
like anyone who truly practices visualization can connect the emotion. Like it really is a game changer for the competitive environment. Yeah. And then that's why we have that emotional release when we actually accomplish it. It's like your body just releases everything that you were just working for.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was not expecting to. I don't cry. I don't cry in public, so that was crazy. But that was a great moment.
Well, just hearing, right, like the passion and the commitment to actually the belief in self and finding what is true to you in all the athletic endeavors you've done. Like there's a difference with what that sport environment felt like to you versus being a competitive soccer player or doing cycling, like anything that you're successful at wasn't the same emotional level as this.
No, it wasn't the same. Yeah, there was something different about this. And I think it's like because I had gone through so much before and maybe my age, seeing that there's hope, I guess, because I've always identified as an athlete. I didn't know what I'd be able to identify as. And now I know I can always do this or always coach and be involved in it in some way.
Looking through that like journey, what's been maybe the most difficult obstacle you've had to overcome?
Sometimes realizing my limitations too, my physical limitations as I age, because I like to be really positive about, my body can handle a lot of things. I'm very resilient, but then I also see there's things I can't do that I used to do at that level. So coming to terms with that is hard.
Aging as an athlete is very difficult. Like our mind, we think we can do this stuff, and then we're like, no, wait, we really aren't as fast or as strong, and body doesn't work the same way.
Yeah. I'm glad that I didn't really run a whole lot when I was younger, because I'm getting into really focusing on running. So everything's a PR now. I'm like, all right, I'm great. I'm good. I feel good about myself because I don't know how I was when I was younger.
Right. What has been your mindset or the evolution of your mindset in each of these athletic sports?
I think I used to be a lot harder on myself, a lot more judgmental about myself, about the way I looked, about my times, about maybe I felt judged by people watching, but it was really just me judging myself very harshly. So when I decided to let go of that and think of, hey, how you're going to look is how you're going to look. If you're performing well, if you put on a little more muscle mass or you're not as ripped all the time, nobody cares. It's not a big deal. Or if you mess something up or maybe you're not as fast, nobody cares. Mm-hmm. It's more about inspiring other people and looking at the good things that what your competing brings. You don't have to be so self-centered.
So did you have the guidance to work through that? Was that self-taught? How'd you get to that awareness to be able to let go of the external pressures and the societal judgment?
That's been just a community. I think people at my gym, clients, just friends, just talking through that and being open about it and being honest, because that's a hard thing to say. Hey, I kind of was restricting my diet a little bit so that I looked a certain way. And I saw some things happen with my performance, hey, let's eat, let's fuel your body. It's crazy because I work with a really good running coach, Jeff Cunningham, and he coaches Olympic athletes, some of the best runners in Austin. I'm pretty sure I'm his slowest or one of his slowest athletes. And we would meet his group that in Austin. We run over in Great Northern and Shoal Creek, kind of where my gym is. And if you look at me compared to the other women that he trains, I'm pretty big. I'm pretty big. I weigh, 150, 155. But I'm pretty close to their numbers, to their paces, and I can still train alongside them. So I've had to really like accept myself for how I look and think, you can run with them and you can go and deadlift and do all these other things too. So it's good. Like, let's not like put everything into this how do you look, category.
Yeah, that comparison trap, right? Was the body image an always part of your kind of mental trap that you'd fall into, the difficulty piece, or was this new as you evolved into a sport that was about what your body could do?
It was new when it kind of developed when I went into CrossFit, and you see a lot of those women, they're like specimens. They have six packs, they've got like bulging muscles, they're pretty lean. And I wanted to look like them, and I never really quite did. So I was always playing with my diet, my macros, becoming a nutrition coach. You have all this knowledge, and you're like kind of obsessing about everything. So there was a point where I was weighing and measuring all my food. Nothing I would eat would not get logged, and I mean, I was shredded, like pretty low body fat percentage. But when I started getting back into this endurance world in high rocks, I couldn't quite operate the same because of the amount that I needed to eat to sustain all that extra training.
Right.
So I had to kind of just stop counting my macros and just kind of go by feel.
What allowed you to then eventually say, no, this is too much. This is too exhausting. I need to like do something different.
It came to the point where I think people started noticing my mood. My clients noticed my mood wasn't right. I would just be kind of short. I would be tired, just not in a great mood. And I think I ran my very first marathon last year, and going through that process is really what taught me how to fuel properly again. Because when I was bike racing, I ate whatever I wanted. You just had to eat all the time. So that got me back into that mindset of fueling.
And I love like the intricacies of like fueling is real, but it's different for each sport. And as a woman, as you age, and the pressures on that too is all compounded into what we're doing. Yeah. And it's relearning each phase of what do I need right now for what I'm doing, what my body needs to do. And even as a nutrition coach, we fall into traps that can be difficult.
Yeah. It's hard because people, they look to you, they're, my coach. And I felt if I didn't look a certain way, maybe they wouldn't hire me or this or that. And it's really just, a lot of it's just nonsense. A lot of pressure we put on ourselves that's unnecessary. And letting go of all that, it creates so much more space for greater things that are more important.
So take me through what allowed you then to not just be the competitive athlete you are and still currently are, but decide to want to coach and like go into training.
I didn't actually want to do it. It just kind of was something that I fell into, and it took me a while because I didn't know what else to do for work. Like, what do? I don't really know anything else. It took me a while to own that identity and see myself as a leader and somebody that you'd want to hire. Honestly, I hadn't even figured that out until maybe this year. Wow. That I've really owned it now.
What do you think that shift was for you?
It was seeing all the people coming to the gym wanting to work with me, and it would just surprise me. I'm like, why do you want to work with me? Or like, why would you want to pay that much? Like, learning to accept money was scary at first. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, you want to pay me this much? Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the hard part of like, you're doing what you love. Now people see this in you and they believe in you and they're admiring it. And they're like, I want that.
Yeah. And it's like, it is what you love. So maybe that's the reason why it took me a while to accept, like, this isn't my job. Like, it's okay to make money doing this.
Right.
Just because it comes easy to you and you enjoy it doesn't mean that it's not of value to other people.
When we look at like what I call it kind of like the mental play, right? What has been your relationship with mental health and finding coping sources and social outlets for you?
You know, that this is probably the reason why I'm considered a pretty good endurance athlete, because I probably am not the most mentally healthy person around. But I'm honest about it. I definitely have used cycling particularly as a way to deal with a lot of issues that happened to me. It's like around the time I started really racing competitively, a lot of other things were going on in my life that were pretty bad. Like a divorce. I got divorced. I lost my dad. I lost my brother, all around the time where I just skyrocketed as a cyclist because I was running away from a lot of things. And they say that about endurance athletes, they're running away from things. But like in my case, like seriously, I was.
And it's such a weird thing because you have this community that's investing in you and believing in you and you're successful. And on the outside, everything probably looks like you were doing great.
Yeah. No, people would have no clue how like depressed I was. They would have no idea. Or they think, there's struggles with money and, barely getting by. Yet I had some of the best sponsors. I had the best bike. I had the best outfits and everything for cycling. And it's like, yeah, I don't really know how I'm going to pay my rent this month, but, it's okay.
What did you do to get through that time beyond just cycling, right? Because that can help you, but that's also your job and lots to it. Like, how did you heal?
I haven't healed yet. I think I'm still healing. And that's part of my journey now, is healing and overcoming that. And I feel like I'm making progress finally. And I wish I could say I've overcome it, and I haven't.
And I think that's interesting, right? When we have people, myself and those get through trauma, right? At any level, and the grief and the loss, are we ever healed, or is it consistently healing?
Yeah, I feel like it's a constant. You have to keep working at it. And I'm trying not to use like, running or doing all these endurance activities as a way to run away. Now I'm using it more as like empowerment for myself and for other people, and looking to put a positive thing out in the world, rather than just running away.
And having it be your escape, right?
Yeah.
What is when we look at like the sport community, right, and mental health and the stigma around psychology and using resources in this hybrid world, what is the relationship with mental health for the athletes that are involved in this?
I don't know. That's a really good question. There's one of the, Meg Jacoby just won High Rocks World Championship. And I look at her, and I've met her a few times. I've done a couple like small competitions with her, and she's got like a daughter. She's a single mom. She just quit her like corporate job to like go all in as a coach and as an athlete. And, I look at her, and she's like so strong, and there's just so many strong female athletes in the hybrid space. I think with like social media now, people are more open about what's going on in their personal lives. I think everything would be a lot better if everyone was just honest about their struggles, so that you didn't feel as alone.
Right. Could create a space for that community for that, because when we look at like more of these organizational sports of like the NBA, the WNBA, MLS, things of that nature, there's providers that can be there. There's resources, still limited, but we see the shift in their like collective bargaining agreements, and that psychology and mental performance is a resource. But in non-traditional, I guess, sport settings like CrossFit, High Rocks, the hybrid zone, cycling, how do we build that mental side into the sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess because it's, it's not as organized as a thing, it's not as, how many people really know what High Rocks is? I know more people know now, but is it a household name yet? I'm not sure.
And I think it's trending that way, right? And that's when I look at, and maybe it's just my algorithm in my own social media feed, but when I see the evolution of the sport, right? 7 people in your event in 2021.
Yeah.
And then recently competing in New York with 5,500 athletes in just 3 years. I mean,
I know.
it's going to, and to your point, the longevity, like there's no ageism in this sport, right? So we see, I think there's like a 75 or an older man in the world's competing and got like a really good time.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, dang, so like
he beat me.
He did beat me. So it's like it takes away some of the stigma around ageism and sexism in general. It's movement of the body. You have individual mixed relays, doubles, like it is an endless sport that I think people are going to evolve to, but are we providing the right education around nutrition and mental performance and mental health in this space?
And I think it's already happening. I see it. I feel like a shift in the way that we talk about fueling and body image in sports, where it's okay. Like it's okay to have muscle. It's okay to weigh more. We kind of have to do this.
And I will say, like, I totally relate to the body image piece, the fueling. Myself coming from endurance-based collegiate track running, marathon running, that was kind of my jam. Never really lifting, maybe some Berry boot camp, Orange Theory classes, but not really lifting until January of this year. And leaning into tracking my food to understand the fuel, to trust my coach that you need to eat this amount of calories, you need to eat this amount of protein. I mean, my kids will joke about the amount of protein that we eat in the house, but I used to be so ashamed and had a really complex issue around food and what it meant to me and what I needed to look like and what was it for. And it was maybe a lack of awareness, maybe my running community, the world, the image of what a woman looks like, a mom of 4, like getting my body back, like all the things. But the past 6 months, the fact that I will track every single day, will openly show to my coach. Like the first month was very hard. I didn't want him to look at what I was doing. I was ashamed. I was fearing judgment. But I cried and I bought into it.
Yeah.
And then like I would do my DEXA scans, which was absurd to think I could do that, right?
Oh, God.
And share those results again, right? Like it's not easy, but I think the biggest growth for me, knowing one, I can push like really cool sled and feel really strong and powerful. Being able now to say, this is what my body adapts to allow me to do this. Like, what do we need to analyze now? Like now it's data, it's information, and it's a completely different dynamic with my relationship with food because I've gotten educated around it. But it used to cause me such shame, and it is a journey. I think that's probably, I don't know, I can't speak for men, right? But I think the females in this space learning to go through that with an understanding coach and trusting the training process it's been a game changer for me.
It's always been like, we don't want to get bigger, but it's not. Yeah. I think as women, we've been lied to a lot about just weightlifting and what it does to our bodies. And like, no, we need to do this if we're going to like be healthy and as we age, we need muscle mass. Like right. We need to eat like 100 or, I eat like 150 grams of protein every day.
So if you were to give whether yourself or your clients like a mental cheat code, something that has been your go-to that impacts you in your performance or life, what do you think that would be?
Lean into discomfort. When you're in a race and you feel that moment, there's probably that one moment where you start to feel pretty bad in a race where you're like, oh no. If you just kind of hang in there for that and don't freak out or don't like take your foot off the gas, but just like, all right, we're just going to keep going with this. It's going to be fine, because it's going to be fine. There's always those highs and lows. And you just got to remember that I don't know how, like a sentence that would put that together, but yeah, just lean into the discomfort, one foot in front of the other kind of thing.
And then, yeah, the results will come.
Yeah. It's simple. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. It's amazing how I think it's simple, and I work with a lot of people and I see a lot of people work out, and I see that moment where they are like, oh, I don't want to do this. This hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, this really hurts. And they're just kind of like back off.
And for you, like, do you know your limits? Like, I mean, do you know when you need to push beyond that? Because you're like hitting that mark of like, oh, this is my comfort zone.
I know it, but then I don't. I try to think about probably the most painful thing that I've done, and it's been definitely on the bike. So nothing I've done with high rocks, with running, has matched that yet. So I know I have more in me.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of getting to that point.
What else you got going on?
I've just qualified for the Hybricon Games, which is a new thing. They did it last year. It's Hunter McIntyre and Austin Alexander, who's like this YouTube guy. They put together this event, and it's gonna be out in some like island in the Pacific for 4 days, like Survivor. Yeah. But it'll be 3 days of competition out there. It's going to be in October, end of October. And day 1 is like a field day type thing. Day 2 is endurance. Day 3 is survival. So yeah, training for this triathlon and a couple other little races I have, I think are going to really help me there.
Yeah. And when you're not training, what's your go-to recovery strategy?
Go-to recovery strategy is spending time with friends, doing like Top Golf. I've been learning to play pickleball. Just more like mental recovery where I just do something that's fun. And then I just sleep. I do like try to make sure I get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Because I know I cannot function without it. So I make it a priority to go to bed like around 9 p.m.
So how can people stay up to date with the latest things that you're doing competitively, coaching, and the work that you're doing?
I'm on Instagram. I've got my Instagram page is wattage_cottage. And then that's kind of where I post everything.
Yeah.
That's where like I get in touch with clients. They just send me a DM and we start talking, and it's pretty organic in that way.
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, I've been following your journey, and I'm excited to just be able to spend time with you, learn about what you're working on, and, sharing this with those that are listening. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us this week on the highs and lows of X's and O's. I hope today's episode has equipped you with another mental cheat code to help you navigate your own highs and lows in pursuit of your success. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'd love to hear what you'd like to hear next. Until next time, stay curious, compassionate, and courageous.